I used to think weddings were proof that love could survive anything, that once you walked down the aisle, every wound, every scar, every heartbreak that came before would finally make sense. I used to believe that, until the day I became the bride who never got to say, I do. My name is Emily Carter, and this is the story of how the man I loved, the man I was supposed to marry, vanished. As if he never existed. The morning of my wedding was perfect, the kind of morning you'd expect in a fairy tale. Soft sunlight, cool breeze, and that quiet hum in the air that feels like hope. My best friend Sophie was curling my hair, humming some love song she knew I hated. Stop smiling like that, I said, laughing nervously. She grinned. Sorry, but you look like you're about to walk into a dream. And maybe I was. Ethan had always made life feel like a dream, gentle, steady, kind. We met 2 years ago in the most ordinary way possible. A spilled coffee, an apology, a shared laugh, but there was something about him that felt safe, like he'd been designed to fit the cracks I didn't show anyone else. Bym. I was in my gown, lace, simple, with a neckline Ethan said made me look like home. The makeup artist stepped back, smiling. You're glowing. I looked in the mirror and saw a version of myself I didn't recognize, calm, confident, sure of her future. If only I knew. The church was already full when the car pulled up. Guests were laughing, phones out, taking pictures. The air buzzing with music and chatter. I could hear the organ starting softly from inside. My heart raced. This is it, I whispered. Sophie squeezed my hand. You ready? I smiled. I've been ready my whole life. The doors opened, every eye turned, and in that moment, I swear, everything slowed like the world was holding its breath. I took a step forward, searching for Ethan at the altar, but he wasn't there. At first, I thought it was nerves. Maybe he was in one of the rooms, fixing his tie, or catching his breath. He hated attention, but 5 minutes passed. Then 10, whispers started, the music faded, the priest shifted uncomfortably, my father leaned toward me. Maybe there's been a delay, I nodded, smiling weakly. Of course. He's probably just, but I couldn't finish, because a strange, hollow fear had already begun crawling through my chest. Another 20 minutes. No Ethan. No call. No message, just silence. When the truth started to sink in, I couldn't move. Sophie took my bouquet from my trembling hands and guided me to a side room. I remember her whispering, "He'll come, Em. Maybe traffic. Maybe something urgent," but her voice was shaking too. I looked down at my phone. No missed calls. I dialed his number again. Straight to voicemail. I called his best man. No answer. I called his mother. Voicemail again. Then I called the hotel he was staying at. A pause. A confused receptionist said, "Ma'am, we don't have anyone by that name checked in." I froze. What do you mean? Ethan Cole, room 214. He checked in 2 days ago. Another pause. Ma'am, there's no record of anyone by that name here. The world tilted. I felt something break inside me. I dropped the phone. I couldn't breathe. I just stood there in my wedding dress, staring at the floor, trying to make sense of it. Sophie was crying quietly. My father was pacing the room. The priest came in, offering sympathy I couldn't hear. My whole body went numb. I remember whispering, "This can't be happening," because it could end. It was impossible. He wasn't just my fiancé. He was everything, every plan, every promise, every piece of my future. You don't just lose a person like that. You don't wake up one morning and find out they were never real. But that's exactly what happened that night. I sat in my living room, still in my gown, hair falling apart, mascara streaked down my face. The wedding decorations were packed up, the guests gone, the flowers dying quietly in their vases. I kept staring at the door, waiting for it to open, for him to walk in with some crazy story, an apology, anything, but it stayed closed. The clock ticked, the city outside went dark, and somewhere between one heartbeat and the next, I realized he wasn't coming back. When I woke up the next morning, my phone had one new message from an unknown number. It said, Stop looking for him, and that's where it all began, the unraveling of everything I thought I knew. That message sat on my screen like a wound that wouldn't close. Stop looking for him, just 4 words, cold, final, almost cruel in their simplicity. I must have read it 100 times that morning, trying to decide if it was a prank, a mistake, a nightmare I hadn't woken up from, but every time I looked, the truth crept closer. Someone knew something, and whoever they were, they didn't want me to find him. My hands were still trembling when I called Sophie. She sounded broken, her voice hoarse from crying. Please don't spiral. Maybe he had some kind of breakdown. I laughed bitterly. A breakdown? Sophie, people don't just vanish into thin air, but maybe they did. Because Ethan had, his number was disconnected, his email bounced back, even his social profiles gone, deleted, like he'd never existed. It didn't make sense. He had a job, friends, family, we had plans, plane tickets, bank statements, wedding vendors under his name, except now, all of it had disappeared. By noon, I was at his apartment building, or rather, the one I thought was his, but when I gave his name to the receptionist, she frowned. I'm sorry, miss. No tenant by that name. I blinked. That's impossible. I've been here dozens of times. She looked me up and down, her tone soft but firm. Ma'am, maybe you're confusing it with another building? I opened my mouth to argue, but then the strangest thing, the walls, the furniture, the lobby, it all looked familiar yet slightly different, like someone had rearranged my memories while I wasn't looking. I walked outside, my breath turning white in the cold. That was when I saw a man across the street, standing too still to focus. He was watching me. The moment our eyes met, he turned and disappeared into the crowd. By the time I got home, panic had turned to obsession. I started digging through old texts, receipts, photos. Every picture I had of Ethan looked normal at first, until I zoomed in, his face always slightly blurred, like the camera could never quite catch him. At first, I thought it was the lighting, but photo after photo it was the same, a detail so small I'd never noticed before, and now, I couldn't unsee it. That night, I barely slept. I sat by the window, the city lights flickering in the rain, scrolling through every memory I had of him. Our first date, a small Italian place near the harbor, except when I Googled it, it didn't exist. The restaurant had closed 5 years before we met. Our trip to Vermont, I checked the hotel.no record of our stay, the photos from that trip. Just me, every trace of him was slipping through my fingers like smoke. By dawn, I drove to the police station. The officer on duty, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, listened quietly as I told him everything. He typed a few notes, nodded politely, then asked for Ethan's ID or photo. I handed him one from my phone. He frowned. Ma'am, this looks digitally altered. What? No, that's him. That's Ethan. He sighed, leaning back. I'll file a report, but without verifiable records, there's not much we can do. Verifiable records? I snapped. He's my fiancé. He gave me that look, the one people reserve for the grieving and the delusional. I'm sorry, miss. Maybe take some time. Sometimes our minds. I didn't let him finish. I stormed out. By the time I reached home, the sun was setting again, and there taped to my door was another note. You should have listened. No name, no handwriting I recognized, just that same deliberate threat. I tore it down, my hands shaking. I wanted to scream, cry, destroy something, anything, but instead I sat on the floor, my wedding dress still hanging in the corner, mocking me like a ghost. My mind raced through every possibility. Maybe Ethan had a secret life. Maybe he'd staged it all, the romance, the wedding, everything. Maybe I'd been part of some cruel game, but deep down, I knew it wasn't just that. This was something bigger, something darker, because if Ethan truly never existed, then who was I in love with? The next morning, I found something else, hidden beneath the couch cushion, a small black flash drive.no label. Just a faint scratch on the surface, I plugged it into my laptop. Holding my breath, one single folder appeared. Inside it, a video. It was dated 2 days before the wedding. I clicked play, the screen flickered, and then Ethan's face, but his expression wasn't calm or loving. He looked terrified. He whispered, "If you're seeing this, they found me." The video glitched, his voice cutting in and out. "Emily, nothing you remember is real." They static, then silence. The file ended abruptly. My pulse thundered in my ears. I rewound, replayed, but it always stopped at the same place, that single sentence echoing in my head. "Nothing you remember is real." I didn't know what that meant, but for the first time since my wedding day, I wasn't just heartbroken, I was afraid, because somewhere between love and lies I had fallen into something I couldn't understand. The morning of my wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I remember standing in front of the mirror, my white dress glowing softly under the morning light. My hands trembled not out of fear, but excitement. Today, I was finally marrying Daniel. My friends were bustling around, fixing my veil, adjusting my curls, and fussing over flowers. My mother cried softly in the corner, whispering blessings. It all felt so real to real. The decorations, the music, the scent of roses filling the air. It was everything I'd dreamed of since childhood, but as the hours passed, something felt off. Daniel hadn't replied to my last text. I brushed it off at first. Maybe he was just getting ready, maybe his phone died. The ceremony was set for p.m., and guests were already arriving. At 3:45, the wedding planner whispered something to my father. His face turned pale. He glanced at me, then turned away. I felt my stomach twist. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice barely steady. My dad hesitated, then said softly, "Honey, Daniel isn't here. He's not answering his phone. His best man can't find him." My world tilted. I froze, gripping the edge of the vanity to keep myself standing. My heart pounded in my chest like it was trying to escape. "What do you mean he's not here?" The planner stammered something about checking with the hotel, the airport, his family, but no one knew where Daniel was. He had simply vanished. Minutes turned into hours. Guests whispered behind their hands. My mother tried to calm me, saying there must be an emergency. My best friend Claire looked terrified, like she knew something she couldn't say. Finally, one of Daniel's coworkers arrived, pale and shaking. "I think you should sit down," he told me. He showed me his phone, a news alert. My fiance's name was in the headline, but the words beneath it, they didn't make sense. "Businessman Daniel Rowe under investigation for fraudulent identity scheme." My breath caught. I read it again and again, not believing it. The article said the man I knew as Daniel Rowe wasn't real. His real name was unknown. He had scammed multiple people under false identities and disappeared after transferring funds from an international account. The man I was about to marry never existed. Everything I'd known, his job, his apartment, his family stories, was a web of lies. The laughter, the love, the promises, all of it fabricated. I ripped off my veil, my tears smudging my makeup as I whispered, "Who was I in love with? A ghost?" The guests began to leave, murmuring condolences that felt like knives. My father held me as I sobbed, my wedding dress crumpling in his arms, and that night, as the rain poured outside, I lay in my room alone, scrolling through our messages, rereading every word, every "I love you," every plan we made. Each message felt like a betrayal carved into my heart. That's when it hit me. I didn't just lose the man I loved, I lost the person I thought I was, because how do you rebuild your life when the foundation was built on someone else's illusion? The next few days after the wedding were a blur of tears, unanswered questions, and sleepless nights. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, friends, reporters, even strangers trying to piece together the story of the runaway groom. It was everywhere. My face, our photos, our love story, all twisted into headlines like "Bride left at the altar by a ghost fiancé." Every notification felt like a stab to my chest. I stopped answering calls. I shut the curtains. The world outside moved on, but I stayed frozen in that moment, the aisle that led to nowhere. But the worst part wasn't the humiliation. It was the doubt. Had any of it been real? I replayed every memory, searching for signs I'd missed. The way he always avoided questions about his past, how his stories never quite lined up. I remembered how he said his parents lived abroad, but I'd never met them, never even spoken to them on the phone. He'd told me his mother was sick, so he couldn't bring her to the wedding. At the time, I felt sympathy. Now, I felt stupid. I had fallen in love with a man who didn't exist, but then something strange happened. 3 nights later, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject line, no name, just one sentence. I never meant to hurt you. My breath caught. My fingers trembled as I stared at the screen. The email was signed. D.it. Had to be him. Daniel, or whatever his real name was. I replied instantly. Who are you? Why did you do this to me? But no response came. Not that night. Not the next. The silence was worse than the truth. So I decided to find my own answers. I started by going through every photo, every text, every detail I could remember. I dug into his social media accounts. Nothing. All deactivated. His phone number was disconnected. Even his LinkedIn had vanished. It was like someone had erased him from the internet. Then I remembered something: his old laptop. He had left it at my apartment a few weeks before the wedding, saying he'd pick it up later. I'd forgotten about it until that moment. I opened it. Password protected. Of course, but I knew Daniel, or at least I thought I did. I tried his usual passwords. His birthday, our anniversary, my name. Nothing worked, and then I remembered something he once said. You're my favorite song. Lily, my favorite song was Chasing Cars. I typed it in. The screen unlocked. My heart pounded as the desktop appeared. Dozens of folders, some with normal names, others coded with numbers and symbols. One folder caught my eye. Project Aurora. I opened it. Inside were documents, fake IDs, scanned passports, each with different names but the same face. Daniel's. My fiancé had at least 6 different identities. I sat there, numb, scrolling through files labeled targets, accounts, transactions. He wasn't just living a lie. He was running a network, some kind of scam involving fake investments, offshore transfers, and romance schemes. He had built entire relationships just to manipulate people, and I was one of them. Suddenly, the email made sense. I never meant to hurt you. Maybe I was never meant to be part of the game. Maybe he fell in love with me. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But believing it would mean trusting the man who destroyed my life. Still, I couldn't let it go. I needed closure. So I did something reckless. I replied to that same email again. I found your laptop. I know who you are. If you ever cared about me, meet me just once. No police, no tricks. I just need to understand. For days, nothing. Then, one evening, I got another message. Tomorrow, p.m., the cafe on 5th. Come alone. My heart stopped. It was him. I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents, not my friends. I had to see him, had to look him in the eyes and ask why. The next evening, the world felt unreal. The sky was heavy with gray clouds, the air cold and still. I wore a simple coat and scarf, my hair tied back, no makeup. I wanted him to see what he'd done, to see me raw, broken, human. The cafe was nearly empty when I arrived. The smell of coffee filled the air. I chose a corner table and waited. Minutes passed. My pulse raced. I kept glancing at the door, and then he walked in, same face, same calm, confident stride. But his eyes were different. Haunted. He sat across from me, silent. The air between us felt thick with everything, and said, "Why?" I finally whispered, "Why me?" He looked down, running his fingers through his hair. "Because you were real," he said. And that was my mistake. I stared at him, disbelief and anger warring in my chest. He told me everything: how his real name was Ethan Moore, how he'd been part of a ring that built fake identities to scam investors. He was supposed to make me fall in love with Daniel Rowe. use the relationship to gain access to my father's company connections. But he couldn't do it. He said he fell in love for real. I tried to stop it, he said. I wanted to come clean before the wedding, but they found out. They would have gone after you. I wanted to hate him. I should have hated him. But seeing the pain in his eyes made it harder. Where are they now? I asked. He looked around nervously. Gone. And soon, I will be too. He slid a small envelope across the table. Inside is everything you need to clear your name if they come after you. I'm sorry, Lily. I wanted forever with you. But forever was never real for people like me. And before I could say another word, he stood and walked out. That was the last time I saw him. After Ethan walked out of that cafe, I sat there for what felt like hours. The coffee had gone cold, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept staring at the envelope he'd left behind, afraid to open it, afraid of what it might mean. Finally, I tore it open. Inside were several documents, bank statements, offshore account details, names, numbers, and something that made my heart stop. A photo of Ethan with another man, both looking directly at the camera, wearing expressions that weren't friendly. On the back, a message was written in rushed handwriting. If something happens to me, tell the FBI. They'll know what to do. That was the moment I realized it wasn't over. Whatever Ethan had been involved in, it was still happening. And now, I was in the middle of it. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the apartment made me jump. Every car that passed outside made me think someone was watching. The city lights outside my window, which once felt alive and comforting, now felt like a trap, too bright, too exposed. The next morning, I decided to go to the police. I couldn't carry this alone anymore. At first, they didn't believe me. A con artist fiang who never existed? One officer said skeptically. That's not something we hear every day. But once I showed them the documents, everything changed. They took the files, made copies, and told me to stay somewhere safe. Days passed with no word. I tried to return to work, but I couldn't focus. My co-workers whispered behind my back. My boss suggested I take some personal time. Even my friends didn't know what to say anymore. I wasn't Lily, the woman who was getting married. I was Lily, the woman who got conned by her ghost groom. But then one afternoon, I received a call from a blocked number. Miss Lily Carter? A man's voice said. This is Agent Morris with the FBI. We need to speak in person. When we met at a small federal building downtown, he told me they'd been tracking Ethan, or rather, Ethan Moore, for years. He was one of the best in a long-running international fraud operation. They'd come close to catching him twice, but he always disappeared before they could. And then Agent Morris looked at me, his expression softening. You were different, he said. You made him careless. And that gave us a trail. I didn't know whether to feel proud or sick. He told me that Ethan had turned himself in days after our meeting. He'd provided evidence against his former partners, exposing the entire network. But there was more. He'd asked for one thing in return, that they protect me. Tears filled my eyes as I listened. He had vanished from my life, but not without making sure I'd be safe. Agent Morris gave me a letter, sealed. He wanted you to have this, he said. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. Lily, you were the only truth in a life full of lies. You made me remember what it felt like to be human again. I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope that someday, when you think of me, it won't be with hate. Maybe, in another life, I could have been the man you deserved. Love always, Ethan. I cried harder than I ever had before. Not just for what I'd lost, but for what could never be. Months went by. I moved to a new apartment, changed my number, and started therapy. I learned to live again, slowly. There were days when I still woke up expecting a text from him. Other days, I caught myself smiling at memories that shouldn't have felt warm but did. Then one quiet Sunday morning, I received a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a small wooden box. When I opened it, I found a silver locket with our initials carved inside, L&D, and on a folded note. Just one line. For the woman who made me believe in love again. I looked up, tears in my eyes as the sunlight spilled through the window. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel like a victim. I felt free. Ethan was gone, but in some strange, bittersweet way, he'd given me back something far greater than love. He'd given me the strength to start over. I decided to write about my experience, not as a story of betrayal, but of rediscovery. I called it Her Wedding Day, but the groom never existed. The world saw it as a scandal, but for me it was closure, because sometimes the people who break us are the same ones who teach us how to rebuild. A year had passed since the day I opened that wooden box, 12 months since I'd read Ethan's last words. Standing by my window as the morning light kissed the tears off my face, I didn't think I'd ever be able to say his name again without my heart twisting, but time has a strange way of softening pain without erasing it. Now, I live in a smaller town on the coast, the kind of place where the sea whispers at night and the stars actually show up when you look for them. It's peaceful, simple, real. I work at a small bookshop near the pier. The smell of paper and sea breeze fills my days. There's a cafe next door that serves the best vanilla lattes I've ever had. The owner, a kind old woman named Marjorie, greets me every morning with the same line, "Another chance to begin again, dear?" And every time, I smile and answer, "Yes." Always, I've learned something in the quiet of this new life. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without letting it destroy you. Sometimes, when I close up the shop and watch the sunset spill gold over the ocean, I still think of him. Not the liar, not the con artist, but the man who, for a brief, fragile moment, made me believe in love again. I'll never know what was true and what was an illusion. But maybe it doesn't matter anymore. Maybe what mattered was that for a while, I saw beauty in someone who was trying to outrun his own darkness. It was late one evening when I first met Daniel. He came into the shop just as I was turning the closed sign. He apologized, smiling shyly, asking if I had a copy of The Little Prince. There was something about the way he said it, soft, sincere, a little uncertain, that made me unlock the door again. We talked for nearly an hour about books, life, and how he'd recently moved to town after leaving a corporate job that wasn't feeding the soul anymore. His eyes had that kind of warmth that made you feel seen, not studied, not judged, just seen. Before he left, he said, "You remind me of someone who's been through storms, but still chooses to stand in the sun, and for the first time in so long." I didn't shrink away from that light. The next day, he returned with coffee, and then again the day after that. Little by little, our conversations became a rhythm. Laughter filled the quiet spaces that used to ache. He didn't ask too much about my past, and I didn't offer more than I was ready to share. Somehow, that unspoken understanding felt like safety. One evening, as we walked along the pier, waves crashing gently below, he turned to me and said, "You have a beautiful way of looking at broken things." I smiled, tucking my hair behind my ear. "That's because I used to be one. It took me a long time to realize this. We don't always get to choose who hurts us, but we do get to choose who helps us heal." Ethan's chapter in my life ended with betrayal, but Daniel's began with kindness, and maybe that's how life works. Pain gives us depth, but love gives us color again. Sometimes I still wear the locket, not as a memory of him, but as a reminder of me, the woman who survived, rebuilt, and still believed in love despite everything. As I sit by the window tonight, watching the ocean shimmer under the moonlight, I whisper softly, "Goodbye, Ethan. Thank you for teaching me how to find myself." And somewhere deep inside, I feel a quiet peace, because this time, I know the story isn't about the man who disappeared. It's about the woman who learned to live again. A year had passed since the day I opened that wooden box. 12 months since I'd read Ethan's last words. Standing by my window as the morning light kissed the tears off my face, I didn't think I'd ever be able to say his name again without my heart twisting. But time has a strange way of softening pain without erasing it. Now, I live in a smaller town on the coast. The kind of place where the sea whispers at night and the stars actually show up when you look for them. It's peaceful, simple, real. I work at a small bookshop near the pier. The smell of paper and sea breeze fills my days. There's a cafe next door that serves the best vanilla lattes I've ever had. The owner, a kind old woman named Marjorie, greets me every morning with the same line, "Another chance to begin again, dear?" And every time, I smile and answer, "Yes." Always, I've learned something in the quiet of this new life. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without letting it destroy you. Sometimes, when I close up the shop and watch the sunset spill gold over the ocean, I still think of him. Not the liar, not the con artist, but the man who, for a brief, fragile moment, made me believe in love again. I'll never know what was true and what was an illusion. But maybe it doesn't matter anymore. Maybe what mattered was that for a while, I saw beauty in someone who was trying to outrun his own darkness. It was late one evening when I first met Daniel. He came into the shop just as I was turning the closed sign. He apologized, smiling shyly, asking if I had a copy of The Little Prince. There was something about the way he said it, soft, sincere, a little uncertain, that made me unlock the door again. We talked for nearly an hour. About books, life, and how he'd recently moved to town after leaving a corporate job that wasn't feeding the soul anymore. His eyes had that kind of warmth that made you feel seen, not studied, not judged, just seen. Before he left, he said, "You remind me of someone who's been through storms, but still chooses to stand in the sun." And for the first time in so long, I didn't shrink away from that light. The next day, he returned with coffee. And then again the day after that. Little by little, our conversations became a rhythm. Laughter filled the quiet spaces that used to ache. He didn't ask too much about my past, and I didn't offer more than I was ready to share. Somehow, that unspoken understanding felt like safety. One evening, as we walked along the pier, waves crashing gently below, he turned to me and said, "You have a beautiful way of looking at broken things." I smiled, tucking my hair behind my ear. "That's because I used to be one. It took me a long time to realize this. We don't always get to choose who hurts us, but we do get to choose who helps us heal." Ethan's chapter in my life ended with betrayal, but Daniel's began with kindness. And maybe that's how life works. Pain gives us depth, but love gives us color again. Sometimes I still wear the locket, not as a memory of him, but as a reminder of me, the woman who survived, rebuilt, and still believed in love despite everything. As I sit by the window tonight, watching the ocean shimmer under the moonlight, I whisper softly, "Goodbye, Ethan. Thank you for teaching me how to find myself." And somewhere deep inside, I feel a quiet peace. Because this time, I know the story isn't about the man who disappeared. It's about the woman who learned to live again. It's been 6 months since Daniel first walked into my bookshop, and somehow in that time, he became familiar, comforting, a quiet heartbeat in my everyday life. He wasn't the kind of man who overwhelmed a room. He had a calm presence like still water, deep and reflective. And after the storm that was Ethan, that calm felt like safety. Every Sunday, we'd meet at the same spot near the cliffs, where the ocean stretched endlessly. He'd bring coffee, I'd bring stories. It became our ritual, our unspoken promise to keep showing up. Sometimes he'd just listen as I talked about my past, not asking for details, but letting me spill pieces when I was ready. And once, after I told him how Ethan vanished before our wedding day, Daniel said quietly, "Some ghosts don't haunt us to hurt us. They linger, to remind us we survived." That stayed with me. One evening, the shop was empty except for Daniel, sitting in his usual corner with a paperback. Rain tapped softly against the windows. The world outside was wrapped in gray. "I've been thinking," he said suddenly, closing his book. I looked up from the counter. "About what?" He hesitated, eyes searching mine. "About how you never talk about what came after he left. What it did to you, I froze. My fingers tightened around the coffee mug I was holding. It wasn't that I didn't want to tell him, it was that I didn't know how. After Ethan, I'd built walls so high even I couldn't see over them. I smiled faintly. Maybe one day I will, he nodded, his voice softer now. I'll wait, as long as it takes. Something in his tone, the patience, the quiet certainty made my chest ache. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe in someone again. That night, after closing the shop, I walked home under the drizzle, the streets glowing in the reflection of streetlights. I thought about the way Daniel looked at me like he saw something fragile but still worth saving, and yet, somewhere deep inside, an unease stirred. Not because of him, but because of me. I was still afraid. Afraid of falling again. Afraid that love, no matter how gentle, always carried a shadow. When I got home, I noticed something odd. A small envelope slipped under my door. No name, no address, just my first name written in careful handwriting. Lily. I opened it slowly. Inside was a single photo. Me and Daniel, taken from a distance. At the cliffs, a chill ran through me. There was a note to one line, scrawled in black ink. You're trusting the wrong man again.